Hello, YouTubers. Joe Kersey here on Wednesday, February 4th, 2014 at 14:22 in the afternoon Eastern Time. And as you might imagine, there have been a few number of things running through my head. There's stuff that runs through my head, but how much of it's going to come out of this hole this afternoon? We shall see. Now the plan of attack for the day was that I was going to take, Paul's got these disability checks that he's getting from this insurance outfit. I was going to take them over to the bank, but it's 8:30, 8:45, getting on toward 9 o'clock. Time waxes on in the morning, and so I thought, well, hell, I've got things I've got to do. I've got a list of stuff to do, and so I just. Plus he's got money in his account to cover stuff. I mean, it's not like the guy's down to like $30 in his bank account. I mean, he's got, a very, very adequate amount of stuff in his checking account to cover things. But see, he, and to his credit, he has set a sort of a mental floor, below which he does not wish to go. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. But, these checks are going to go in, and it's not like we're going to hold them for a year. I mean, they're going to go in within, their stated either 90 or 100-day limit on a thing. And he's going to get the money. So, if you got to pay your truck payment or your this or your that payment, just, it'll be fine. But it's good he's antsy. It is good he is antsy about that. Because Lord knows I was always antsy about that kind of crap too, myself. So, good for him. It would have all helped though, if he had originally signed up for direct deposit of these checks, which just before I did this video, just before I started this video, he indeed called and adjusted it so that all the subsequent checks for this time off of work, with this broken ankle, this fibula fracture, will be direct deposited, so this won't be an issue. So, good. The other thing that happened today, well, there's a couple other things that happened today, actually. But, he said, could I do some laundry for him? I said, hell yeah, of course. And so did the laundry, and it's in the dryer right now. It's still drying, banging around in the dryer. And so got that squared away. And then yesterday, I got a call from this Trans Systems guy who I knew he was. He says, this is, he gave me his name. He says, there's this pause, and he says, do you know who I am? I said, yeah, I know you are. I identified myself. I said, oh, this is Joe Kersey. And he gave his name, and I thought, then, okay. This is a guy I really liked. He'd come up to at the corner house and, He says, now you've got 12 steel T-bar fence posts along this property line up on the north edge of your property. I said, yeah. He says, well, they're actually on the other side of the property line. And I said, well, I'm not so certain about that. I said, because I went out of my way to set those things back on my side of what I understood to be the property line, knowing where the iron pins were set, as I did know indeed where the iron pins were set. See, what happened was, when the sewer people came out here in in 2000, they've been out here twice, but what happened, it was in 2000, when they came out here and put in the big force main, the 36-inch force main, and ran it down Powell Road. They pulled up a lot of survey pins. So when the surveyors came out for this survey here, about a year, around, let's just say a year ago, but for this road project, they were wandering around like lost souls. I said, look, I can help you. I mean, I know where some of these pins are. I said, now some of them have been pulled up, but I know where at least two or three of them are left. Actually, about 4 or 5 of them are left. And I showed them where, at least along the north boundary, which we're talking about today, where there's one pin they never violated, they never touched. And based upon a survey that was done for the easement for Columbus and Southern Ohio Power when they ran power into the property north of me, that required them setting a pole, on my property. Well, what was to become my property. I set those 12 little T-bar fence posts. I didn't put up a fence. I just spaced them out so that you couldn't get a riding lawnmower between them. And more of that anon. But based on my information, I thought these things were on my side of the property line. Okay. All this was done in good faith. I wasn't trying to jack around my neighbor, who I really liked and had a good relationship with, which puzzled me when his lawn mowing folks, his agents, if you will, in legal terminology, his agents, before I set these fence posts, came over onto my property and mowed my entire front field. This was around, well, I can't remember specifically when it was, but when it happened, what it did was, I had been following a lot of little volunteer trees out in that front field. Now, admittedly, when you're trying to keep from mowing over and killing little volunteer trees, you're going to get a lot of, a lot of them aren't going to make it. But some of them do, and so I had gone out and I'd bought a bunch of these little orange flags that you can stick next to things you don't want to mow over. When I was still mowing out there, I marked it so I could keep these little trees growing, and I was able to get around about a 3.5 year, 4 year start on some of these little tiny baby trees. Some of them were actually getting up about, and some of them still die. But when they get around this high, they tend to sometimes take off. And I suppose in retrospect, there's just been more ash trees for the bugs to eat or the emerald ash beetles to kill. But nonetheless, it was my place. That's what I was trying to achieve on it. And here these guys come in. They mow the whole damn thing down. The whole damn thing down. I couldn't believe it. I actually happened to come out when they were in the process of doing it. I damn near had a stroke and an MI at the same time. I was so fucking mad.
You called the sheriff.
I called the sheriff. And I called the sheriff on. I called the sheriff on. Yeah, I called the sheriff on him. Yeah. I mean, but how these guys were, I didn't ask them to do that. I had gotten, this wasn't like some sort of notice from the township to do this or the county to do this. No. Well, the sheriff came out and ran him off. So then I called Jackert, who owned the property, who I liked, who I got along with. We had been residents together. I liked this guy. He's a very reasonable guy. I said, what were you thinking? He says, well, I didn't tell him to do it. He says, but, I got this thing from, they said you had to mow, or I had to mow. And I said, but that's on your side. That's as may be. I don't know. They didn't say anything to me about having to mow. So, I don't know. Well, I assume he thought he was going to be a nice guy and tell him to mow on my side. I don't know. He didn't say. We never got into that. That was fine. I was just best to just leave it at that.
Okay.
No, just hang on a moment, Paul. So, I said, be sure they don't do that again. Fine. So about 3 months later, they come in and do it again, and they spray herbicide. They spray herbicide on my property. That's when I put up the steel fence posts. At least if they wanted to get these lawnmowers onto my place, they'd have to come around and actually do it by a more direct invasion route than what they had done. That's the genesis of the steel fence post saga. And the guy says, well, we're still going to compensate you for those. I said, they're only $2 a piece. It's like $25. I don't care about the fence posts. I thought they were going to jump my ass about being on his side of the property, which I don't think I am, by the way. But, see, I have a feeling these guys, their surveyors are working from a different set of legal descriptions than the legal descriptions I have in my title work and in my deeds. So, there's clearly, there's going to be some wiggle room there. If somebody wants to make an issue over this trivial nonsense, there's wiggle room there. Okay. So, by the way, I did on the way to the store today. I was able to actually stop and cite down the lines that I had been aware of. See, as I said, the sewer people, the sanitary engineering construction people, perhaps it wasn't the sanitary engineering people that pulled them, but the people doing the work for the sanitary engineer pulled, I saw them pull at least two or three sets of pins when they were doing that work. That's like a major no-no. You don't pull pins. Well, anyway. So I went to the wine store, and then I went to Walmart and bought Paul's Diet Coke, 2 12-packs of Budweiser, and a pack of Camel filters. Am I the best enabling boyfriend in the world or not?
Yes, you are.
And then I had to go pay my real estate tax, like $5,500 something or other of them. That's a half year. That's only 6 months. And the bank, you can deposit it at the Delaware County Bank and Delaware County National Bank, and they've got a branch in one of these shopping centers, high-end shopping centers. These very upscale, yuppie shopping centers there north of Lewis Center Road in Delaware County.
Which one?
Well, yeah, that doesn't narrow it down, does it? And so I'm driving up US 23 toward Delaware, and all of a sudden I realize I've been thinking about all this eminent domain stuff, and I almost was on the south edge of Delaware before I realized I had driven past where I needed to be. And I had to figure out a way to make a U-turn and get around and go back south and go pay these things, which I finally did. But meanwhile, when I went into the bank branch, this woman who had actually been there for several years. I mean, I remember when that branch opened up, and this woman had been there, initially. I mean, it's been there for a while. She says, "Oh, Mr. Kersey, do you have an account with us?" I said, "No, I don't. I'm only up here twice a year to pay my taxes." And she says, "I didn't think I recognized your name because I know most people who bank here." Okay.
I like that.
That is nice, and that is nice. And she's a very pleasant individual. And I mean, she wasn't like she was being a jerk about this. And clearly she was following instructions to upsell services to people.
Yes.
And she says to me, are we convenient for you? Convenient. What's that mean? Are we convenient for you? I said, well, I used to pay my taxes up in Delaware proper at the courthouse, but I stopped doing that when they started installing all the security apparatuses, and you had to sort of almost take off all your clothes to go into the courthouse. He said, "Oh, yeah, it's almost like a strip search." And I said, so, when you guys opened up something down here, I just started paying my taxes down here. It's not as much fun, but and she says, "That's not really what I meant. Are we convenient for you?" And I said, "Well, just why wouldn't you want to do business with us?" I said, "Because I've already got all my other stuff with J.P. Morgan Chase." Which I then said, which if you look at the check I just gave you, you would figure out, because it says on the check, J.P. Morgan Chase. Zippo response. Well, so I said, "I'll see you in 6 months." Well, actually, I'll see her in 5 months. I'll see her in July, so I'll see her in 5 months. Because we pay our taxes up here in February and July. Well, all right. I think that's pretty much got it. Do you have anything you want to shout from abroad there, Paul?
I thought her opening statement was, "What bank are you with?" And you said, "Well, it's on the check."
No, well.
Oh, okay.
Well, we have, there's a lot of literary life. Well, actually, that's not what happened. But that would have also been a legitimate literary license.
Yeah.
So Oh, that-
made it funny.
Oh, that was a big funny.
I thought it was. I mean, that's a little what you know.
Critics everywhere. So on that note, YouTubers, I'm going to say bye-bye.
We're out of here.
We're YouTubers.